Hey everyone, welcome back to From the Ground Up with Esther, the space where we talk about faith, growth, and real stories that shape us. I am so excited about today's conversation because I am joined by two incredible women, Jeanette Miranda and Cynthia Martinez. They are the creators of Taboo Talks on YouTube. They are truth tellers, diving into conversations that many of us grew up thinking we couldn't have, from mental health to identity, womanhood, and healing. These are the kinds of conversations that shape things up and set people free. Hi, Cynthia and Jeanette. Welcome. To start us off, I would love to hear about Taboo Talks, your story, your journey. If you could share with us how did everything started. And
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll start because really it takes us to where Cynthia takes off on how we got together and the vision was presented. So I am Jeanette. I am the founder rooted in her. I have a women's empowerment community and I also have the rooted in her podcast. Through my podcast, I was bringing on women to share their stories because again, we
Mhm.
believe the power of stories, right? That not only does it help you know that you're not alone and understand, but also it heals, right? When you hear other people that went through it, that are going through something, that it's powerful. And in that journey, I came across Cynthia, where I was like, I need to hear her story. I would love to welcome her into the Root in Her podcast. I don't remember how we started following each other, how we became friends on this platform, but I reached out to her. Something within me, I was like, "Hey, do you want to be on my podcast?" And she's like, "What?" She's like, "I would love to." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So she was a guest on my podcast. I interviewed her and I got to know more about her story. And there was like this connection within us.
Mhm.
But again, knowing that now we all do podcasting, right? Like you connect with people, but then after the episode, you call it a day. We stay friends, but nothing crazy. With Cynthia was different, right? Like we kept talking and then eventually she tells me, I would like to speak to you. I have this idea. And I'll let Cynthia take over because this is her part of the story, which
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Cynthia, and I'm actually a full-time tax accountant, and I work with Esther. We work in the same company. And then on the side, because I'm just a very creative person, I've done doula work, and I've always had something
Mhm.
in me with storytelling, because I think storytelling is extremely powerful. I think with storytelling, healing comes along with it as well as with connection. So I always had in the back of my mind to start a podcast. I just didn't know how. And of course, imposter
Mhm.
syndrome kicks in. And then I would just put all the excuse in the world. Like, I don't have the right mic. I don't have the right setup. Until one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. And then along the way, I'm just going to start learning and then, get a better mic, get a better computer. So I did last year. I just started. And then I had the Glow Up Social Girls. I changed the name twice, so I don't really remember the name. And I just started inviting guests on just so they can share just their story and their path of life, right? Because storytelling to me was like the number one important thing. And I had a guest on. Her name is Jennifer Lee, and she does a funny impression on Instagram. She does like the Latina moms be like, and she's Dominican. So I was able to relate to her because a lot of her funny videos bring me back to like my childhood. I'm also Dominican. So a lot of the videos, I was like, oh my God, that's totally my mom or my aunt. So I had her on the podcast. And we spoke about all sorts of
Mhm.
things, right? And one of the topic that we spoke about was curly hair. Growing up, we thought that having curly hair was just pelo
Mhm.
malo. It was considered ugly, like you had to straighten your hair or you were not considered pretty. So we ended the podcast and I cropped out that piece of conversation and I uploaded it to my Instagram. And within like seconds, it hit like 10,000 views. And I had so many women write in the comment and say, oh my God, I'm like, I can relate. I also grew up the same. I'm Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican, I have curly hair. And that just sparked an idea
Mhm.
because I thought, oh my God, that's such a taboo in the Latino community. And I thought, imagine if we start speaking up about these taboos. So then I said, wait a minute, what if I pivot and I do another podcast or YouTube channel where I bring on different Latinas and we speak about taboos, just about taboos that we were raised with. And I presented the idea to Jennifer. I was like, hey, Jennifer, I had this amazing idea just from this small clip that went viral. And she was like, go with it. Like, I think you have something going, like, just go with it. So I was like, all right. I initially wanted a co host because I was like, I don't want to do it by myself. Like, it's always fun to do it with someone, especially if they align with the vision. So I just kept it in my back pocket. I was like, oh, I'll just, write all my ideas down and just kind of keep it in the back pocket. And then Jeanette reached out to me. I was in her podcast. And like she said, we kind of like immediately had this like connection right after we kept texting each other back and forth. And one day I thought, let me present the idea to her. Maybe she'll love to be like my co-host. And like, what's the worst that can happen? She says no, and then that's it, which I actually thought she was going to say no because she had like so much going on. So I presented the idea to her and she was like, yeah, for sure. She didn't even like hesitate. She was like, yeah, for sure. Like, let's do it. And as soon as she said yes, like no lie, as soon as she said yes, we ran with it till this day.
Cynthia didn't even was like, oh, let me wait to see if Jeanette sleeps on it. And like, I know. Okay, this is the email. What are we going to do? Okay, well, my thing is I love marketing. So, okay, so let me run with what? Instagram? Okay, let me check if it's available. And we just started like playing tag team. We're like, okay, what it was, and it is, right? Very fun. But it's crazy when we look back, like we didn't really like think about it. Okay, we'll start
Do it.
Monday, right? Nothing. We're like, okay, let's just do it now. Funny, because Cynthia never even let
That's
me
funny.
sleep on it. Like she's like, okay, you said yes. They're still turning.
Yes, I was like, okay. And then I think we got on our first ever like Zoom call where we kind of said, okay, what do we need to make this happen? And we were like, all right, let's check Instagram. Is the handle available? Because I had everything. I had the name and I didn't have everything. I had the name and a mission statement. And I knew I wanted like the mission statement. I wanted to present it to her because I wanted to make sure that she was aligned with the mission, and that she agreed that we were going to bring on different Latinas from all walks of life, and we were going to strictly focus on taboos, and we were going to touch on all sorts of topics, whether it's mental health, sex, everything you can possibly think of. And then we were going to add the taboo. Like, what taboo did you grow up hearing about mental health, right? And therapy. And yeah, she aligned perfectly with the mission. And we were like, okay, we need a Instagram handle, an email, and we just ran with it until today.
I remember seeing you started something too back in the day. I don't remember, maybe years ago. Inspired me until this day, and that you kept going. So even seeing from afar without telling you anything,
Oh, thank you.
and seeing how you are being persistent now. So every little step that you have taken year after year, and where you are now, it takes time and it takes work. So it is such an inspiration for me.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I remember, because again, that's something I've always wanted to do. And I've pivoted and I had a podcast with someone, but then our vision kind of didn't align. So we kind of went separate ways, very mutually and respectfully. And then I was like, do I start one on my own? And all those, I guess you can say fear or noises, I've had it too. Like, who's going to want to listen to me? Like, what do I have to say? Like, oh my God, my voice is annoying. Like, who's going to want to press play and hear me talk?
No, and to go back to that story, when we launch our episodes, right, we been getting thousands of hits, right? And I remember Cynthia, she was like, but who? I was like, oh, look, we hit, I think I was like, what, 500, 600 people, viewers, right? And she's like, who are these people? I'm like, it doesn't matter. People for us. But it was so funny because I understand. I mean, I've been there, and this is why my passion is also mindset coaching, because I truly believe there's power within us, right? Like every single one of us, and we set ourselves short because of our limiting beliefs and because we think we're capable of achieving things, right? Once we start locking those beliefs and we start really realizing that we have the power of whatever we want to do, we become very powerful. And that I learned also rooted in her. Even though I had the experience, I had the community, like I believe I was capable of in a way. I was like, who's going to listen to my podcast? And just like you said, Esther, right? Like there's so many podcasts out there. Like, why me? And I feel like that belief is something that we all struggle with, and not just with podcasts. with anything. Like we want to launch a business, we have this idea and we don't run with it because we feel, yeah, right, like who's going to buy from me or who's going to support me? Or, I do, for example, like in your case, you do
Mm-hmm.
corporate America. Like, why am I going to launch a podcast? Like, this is why you should. Like, this beautiful platform you're
Yes.
creating, and something that I feel that sometimes a
Yes.
hobby can truly turn into a business.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, so that's a belief I feel we all struggle with, and especially as Latinas too, that it goes deeper within like our roots, nuestra cultura, for sure.
I think here in America, entrepreneurship it's more embraced in a way,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people we see now, Amazon, all these big names, they started in their garage, right? Just believing, and they kept going and kept going. Now, like you said, it's those limited ideas that we bring from the past that we don't even know we're bringing. Sometimes we don't realize until you start asking questions and seeing, observing, and also closing your ears to those voices that are telling you that, because they will always be there, especially like you said in our community. Sometimes it can be there. I feel now it's starting to change, right?
Yes. Yes. Especially, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's funny that
Mhm.
you say that because like you said in, the
Mhm.
Latino community, entrepreneurship it's almost like looked down on. And I remember for me, I started off when I went into college, my major was journalism because I've always loved the idea of storytelling. And when I did my first year, my second year, and I remember my second year, again, that voice, I was like, what am I going to do with like a journalist, like major, right? Like, what can I possibly do? Because I saw my parents, especially my mom, she also was like a tax accountant in corporate America. Then later on became like a nurse. And for her, career was like number one. So when she would see me pivot to these different like careers, to her, it was like, is that going to make you enough money? So immediately I was like, okay,
Mm.
I'm going to put the journalism aside. And then I became a business major. And then I was like, oh, I'll just follow along my mother's footsteps. Right. And then I became a tax accountant. And then, years went by and I would always remember I was thinking like, man, why am I sitting behind a desk? Like I'm such a creative person and I'm like stuck behind a desk. And then when I had my youngest, I just fell in love with the doula work, with the birth work. So I was like, oh, I'm going to become certified and I'm going to, pivot to that. And I became certified, helped birth a whole bunch of babies. And I remember when I told my mom, I was like, oh, she's going to be like so proud of me. The first thing she said was like, wait, like, what is this? Like, is this making you enough money? Like, did you leave your full-time job for this? Like, she was like so concerned. She's like, this? I was like, no, mom, I'm just doing that like on the side. So it's always like this belief that they have, like, you just have to do like this career that's going to make you money. And if you do anything else, like build a company
Mhm.
yourself or go into entrepreneurship, it's like, no, like that's not going to make you enough money.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that, Cynthia, because it goes back to at the end of the day, like even having the degree and being a nurse, working in corporate America, anything else that's not your own business, you can get fired. You can get laid off, And that's like the concept that I also like try because in my family, we don't have any entrepreneurship. So I'm the only one that actually like stepped forward and I wanted to pursue something else than like the 9 to 5. I knew there was something else out there for me. So same thing as Cynthia. The minute
Mm.
that I would say I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Oh, but that's not making you money. Oh, but what happened when you get older? Oh, but like that looks are not going to last long because I was doing acting for so long, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, it was always like something negative. Like you have to go find a 9 to 5. You need to secure your 401k. But what if I can surpass that and don't need to rely on 401k? Like I can have my own business and I can help others in my business. Like it was that bigger picture that even up to today, they don't see. Even like the YouTube, I would say, oh, we got 1,000 subscribers. And they're like, y eso te está pagando dinero.
Yeah.
Like, why you guys waste so much time recording? Like, that's not making you money. And I'm like, boom. Like, it's just, but it's something that we have to work on because that, we don't have a strong mindset or overall that belief and really have that like passion to want to do something, you will quit. And that's the sad part because of those, even if it's family, friends of like, oh, but you're not making, you're wasting a year doing what? But they don't bigger picture. So yeah, it's really sad that it starts from our roots, We love them, but it's the truth.
Sometimes I think about those people in my circle that will say that, and
Yeah.
I think about it, I'm like, I actually wonder what is it that they wanted to do with their lives that they didn't get to do because of these beliefs, right? And I used to hold it against them in the past,
I
but
love
now I
that.
just think about it. What is it that they would have done if they had left that belief system? So now I think of more like, okay, I'm gonna do what I feel like I need to do. And even just recording this and opening the YouTube channel too, it's like, oh, a YouTube channel, are you gonna be a YouTuber now? Or like, are you gonna be a YouTuber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even say anything at this point, and not for nothing, but because I know my mental health, and for me, I protect it a lot. So for me, I'm like, I'm not gonna say
Mm-hmm.
anything because I don't want those comments to affect me negatively, even though, I've healed and I kind of know how to protect that. So to me, the best way is not to say anything so I don't hear those comments, because I don't ever want someone, especially like someone close to you, right? Like your mom or your tia, to say that. And
Yeah.
then you start overthinking, because I know how
Mm-hmm.
I am. And then I'm like, oh man, should I? I shouldn't do that. So I don't say anything. I don't promote
Yeah,
my
I
page to
understand.
my family because I'm like, I don't want to hear what they have to say. I'll just let them find it along the way.
Yeah, and at the end, they're honestly not even our biggest supporter. And it's sad to say this, not because they don't care, they don't love us. It's
Mm-hmm.
because we can't change, like you were saying, Esther, like what we don't know what they've been through, right? And since this before too, it's like we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what really truly they went through. So how can we expect anything? So we got to be that change for our generation now, of the people to come, our kids, our family, the next people that we're connecting with, especially with technology. I think is a strong tool that we can utilize that, but they didn't even have that back in the days.
Even with, like you mentioned earlier, therapy, I think that's so helpful nowadays. Not to say that you have to live in therapy all the time, because we're trying to build strong and be a different person. But there are resources that we can use right now that have helped. I never thought I would use therapy, but then I found myself using it. And it's been very helpful to go through different areas in my life that I had no idea were actually making me act certain ways in my present, or the way I live my life now. Why am I doing this thing this way? Because it started back when I was younger. So there are different things that we learn if we're open to learning. That's why I love your YouTube channel, and I've been listening to some of your interviews. And also, what I want to do this too, because like you, Cynthia, you felt you were creative. And for me,
Yeah.
I love talking to people. Like I said earlier, I was sharing with you girls, I'm a Christian. I grew up basically in the church, and the Bible says to share your testimonies with one another, because it's biblical. It's in the Bible, because God knows that helps us. So to me, community, exactly, so important.
Yeah.
So to me, I've always had that passion of leading people at my church. Since I was young, I like to preach or speak in public. Like growing up, I remember my favorite class was public speaking. But then I let that aside. I went to school for business, but I actually didn't want to go to school for business. Like I wanted to do something else. But I found myself in that circle. Okay, I have to do this because this is what I have to do, right? Or what my circumstances say I need to do. And of course, God uses everything for the good of those who love Him. That's what the Bible says. So I know that all of it had to happen so I can actually and know who I am and discover those pieces of myself that that has given me. And it takes courage too for us to get out of those thoughts and then step into something new. I think we all go through this,
100%.
Yeah.
where you have to get the courage and step into that thing that you have inside of you that says, go this direction. So that's where I find myself right now, just by starting this and going back to what I used to like. Oh, I enjoy talking in front of people. I enjoy listening to stories. What am I going to do with it? How can I start? And this is a good avenue to do it.
Love. And
Yeah.
with what you just shared brings
Mm,
me back to like what I always go by is life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that's something that I remind
mm-hmm,
myself every day, because when you reflect on the past,
mm-hmm,
you're like, "Oh, I wish I would have done this then," but
yes.
we were not ready then, which is why God was preparing us for this moment, right? For us to have the wisdom, for us to have the strong will, right? For us to be able to
Mm-hmm,
survive everything we went through, to now have a voice to speak for someone, right? So I love that because I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
have to be more vulnerable and be more raw and real, especially with social media. Everything is
Yes.
beautiful and people only post their best highlights, but nobody posts the struggles, right? Like in business. The other day I was thinking of that. It's like, oh, I just made, let's say, right, $1 million. I remember when I was
Mm-hmm.
making like 5 cents, and you're like, why didn't you showcase or document those 5 cents?
Right.
Somebody's journey way better than just saying, "Oh, I just hit a million." Great,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't it doesn't inspire
Exactly.
me. That's just like, okay, keep scrolling. That's good for you. How is that gonna help me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I feel like we're missing that of like how you got there. And that's what I love in Cynthia about storytelling, and what we're
Yes,
all now in common
it
is
does.
storytelling takes us way farther. I think that's the
Yeah. And it's so amazing because when you start, for example, when I started, I was like, man, I should have done this like a long time ago. Like I kept putting up so many excuses along the way. I mean, we have met so many incredible women and we've connected with them. And truly, everyone that I've had on the podcast, I'm like, they're my friend, right? Because we just had this connection with them. And I remember like, a while ago, I was like, man, I can't believe like, I've been a tax accountant for so many years. Like I've been like wasting my time. And I caught myself because I was like, wait, I need to stop saying that because like you said,
Mm-hmm.
God put me there for a reason, right? He was preparing me for something. And I was thinking about this the other day. Jeanette and I want to monetize now our next step is to monetize Taboo Talk Latina Edition. So, we sat down and we came up with a few ideas. And I was like, if we do this, I put a spreadsheet together and I'm like, this is how much profit we'll make, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought about it. I was like, wait, I didn't waste
Mm-hmm.
all those years that I was a tax accountant. It's for this very
Mm-hmm.
purpose because now what I learned, I can monetize. And that's not Jeanette's expertise. Well, that's when I come in because her expertise is something else that
Yeah.
she brings to the
Well.
table, which is something unique that we have, both of us together. So that's something beautiful that I learned. I was like, wait, no, I can't say it was a
Mm-hmm.
waste of
Well.
time
Yeah.
because it wasn't.
Everything
It
is
was
useful.
meant for this very
It's a journey.
purpose.
We're gonna use everything. That is so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, we're talking about your show is Taboo Talks, and there are many different stories that you share about your hair and things like that. But what is something in your life that you can say that was powerful, that you can remember, that pushed you, to be where you are right now, or that made you have that switch in your mentality in your life? Like, is there an experience that you went through specifically?
Yeah, I think I'll go first, Jeanette. Yeah. I think for me, growing up, I was sexually abused at a
Mm-hmm.
young age, which kind of led me to a lot of mental health issues. My biggest one was depression and a lot of suicidal thoughts. And I've hit like rock bottom to the point where I have not wanted to be alive. And I think about 2, 3 years ago, I had like a wake up call and I was like, if I enjoy hearing other people's stories and testimony, then this is my chance to kind of open up a platform and be loud about it, right? Because I almost died in silence. So I'm going to heal out loud. So that was like my whole thing of, starting a podcast and just start telling stories. And then I pivoted to, okay, I'll focus it only on Latinas and we'll speak about taboos. Because when we speak about taboos, like one of the biggest taboos, right, is mental health, right? You go to therapy, you tell your parents, oh, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to therapy. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Oh, eso es pa loco, right? Because therapy is not normalized, which kind of brings it back to my journey of mental health. Like it took me years to say, I need help, or I'm not going to be here tomorrow if I don't seek help. So I did. I seeked help. I went to therapy for 3 years. And, I did other healing methods as well. But that took a long time because of the way I was, So, yeah, I hope that answered your question. That was like my kind of pivotal moment of like, okay, I need to start taking up space and being loud with my story because as much as I enjoy that storytelling, I think it's time now for me to start telling my story and being loud about it.
So I'll take it back a little and then bring it right into my second pivotal moment. I was molested when I was a child. And me, that was my disconnection from real life to what I was, in my own little world. And that's what got me into the entertainment industry where I pursue music, acting, modeling, because I wanted a distraction, right? And I felt that when I was especially singing, it was like I would forget everything that I was going through, right? And then that was really what got me into being an entrepreneur, right? That I was like, man, I'm passionate about something that's not what my family's used to go, or like every career that I would take, I would like quit halfway. I wasn't passionate about it, but that would keep me alive. Like every time I was singing, acting, modeling, that was like truly my passion. With that, I started incorporating coaching along the way. And I was always coaching someone in something, right? When I got into bodybuilding, I was doing fitness. In modeling, I was helping other women feel more confident and be more comfortable in their skin with what they're wearing. Like I always found myself helping others, but it didn't really hit until later on of like, wow, like I love coaching. I love mentoring. I had a pivotal moment really that transitioned
Mm,
from all of that to where I am today. And that was when I became a mom because I was into and successful into the entertainment industry. And then I had this pivotal moment where I became a mom and everything that I was, I couldn't do anymore, right? Realistically, because now I was a mom. So I had to now be present, which that was a blessing. I was present with my boys, but in that transition of them growing up, now they're 5 and 6, I was like, okay, who am I aside from a mom, right? When my boys get older, who am I? And in that moment, I was like, I remember locking myself in the room and I was crying and my boys were outside playing in the living room area. And I was like,
mhm,
why am I so unhappy when I'm not? Like, I'm supposed to be happy. I have my husband, I have a home. God, you've blessed me with my 2 kids, with before I'd had miscarriages. So why am I so unhappy? And
mm,
that's when it hit me. And honestly, rooted in her came alive because I was like, everything we want is within us, right? So we had to dig deep, but I can't do this alone.
mhm,
And I know that if I'm struggling with this, other women are too. So then, just like Taboo Talk happens, became my own person for rooting her. And I'm like, okay, the logo, the name, the message, my mission. And then I started hosting events. And well, fast forward, I launched in May of last year the Root in Her podcast. And then I started also sharing the
mhm,
platform, not just in person, but through our stories, through the podcast. Every time I would hear stories, there were some that had it worse, some that were struggling in their careers, some that were just in the pivotal moment of trying to find their purpose. And I'm like,
mhm,
man, we're all struggling together, but nobody speaks about it.
Mm.
Right? It's like we're
Yeah.
all seeing like, but nobody talks about it until
mhm,
somebody dies, until something happens. We're like, oh, why didn't they speak
mhm.
up? Why didn't they reach out? Mental health, nobody talks about it.
Sí.
How Cynthia said, esto es de loco, right? So, yeah, like God forbids I talk about it. Like we shouldn't. Or people are reaching out. Oh
Mhm,
no, don't kill yourself. Oh no, are you okay? Like we don't want that. Like we just want the community, right? So then when Taboo Talks happened, that was like really what I truly needed because I was tired of also
mhm,
running the community by myself because it gets lonely, right? As you're there for everyone, not everyone is there for you. So then when I met Cynthia and my life changed, but honestly, I would say that, we've all had different stories and pivotal moments, but thanks to everything that I've been through, I feel now more
mhm,
comfortable and confident to speak about it, but also to have that platform to encourage others too, that if they don't have one, to build it. Because I think it's as important, like what you're doing, Esther, of like wanting to provide a platform for others, even
mhm.
knowing that, damn, Jeanette and Cynthia could have one too. It's all different. Like it's completely different.
Yeah.
And your
Yes,
voice
it's
is
so
different than
true.
ours. And
Like,
it's an
even if
additional
one person
platform that
listens
people
to
can
this,
tune into.
that is enough because that person is the one that needed it. Like you said, there's something and a place for everybody. And it's so crazy because, both of you went through sexual harassments and those things don't get talked to. It's a taboo. Don't say, or if something happened within the family, don't talk about it, or people are afraid to speak up as they grow up, and then we grow as adults and you are with this hurt inside of you. I went through that too, and when I hear these things, I'm like, wow, it's so important to actually talk about it. Sometimes we think we are the only ones going through that issue, but there's other people that are going through it too, or that went through it before and now they find themselves on the other side, and that can help us get out of that hole. right? And for me too, when I had this idea for a long time, but I didn't really know what to talk about or how to put my ideas together. But it was maybe 6 months ago when I found myself thinking, I think I know what I want to talk about, because I felt like I was building myself up again. Like I'm starting as an adult with the tools that I can find myself. I decided to go to therapy. Like you said, telling maybe your family, I'm starting therapy. They'll be, why are you sharing your life with that person? Doesn't seem right, right? So, and it makes you think, oh my gosh, it got me thinking twice, oh, maybe I should stop therapy. But then I'm like, no, these people know, of course, I'm sure they have problems, but they already went through that so they can help other people like everybody else.
Yeah. And they have the right tools. They have the right tools, the right resource, right? They went to school, so they know how to help you and identify, where you get stuck to get unstuck. So yeah.
I'm starting from the ground up. I know my identity is a child of God. What is it, a child of God? A child of God, the Bible says that He calls me courageous. He tells me to not fear. He tells me that He loves me. And sometimes even people that go to church don't talk about these things because they might feel judged by even by people in the church, or they think that everything needs to be perfect just because you believe in God. If something happens, it's because you don't have enough faith, when it's not like that, right? There are deeper things that God heals inside of us, and we need to, like I said before, share our testimony so we can help another person overcome those things in their lives.
100%. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And I always say if one person hears this, like our
Yeah.
conversation, and gets saved or healed, then my job is done.
Amen.
But in order for that to happen, we have to speak up and we have to be loud about it. This year, I remember I said to myself, in the new year, I was
Mm.
like, my goal for this year is to take up space and be loud. Cause I've always been very quiet and like, the good girl, right? Because, I was accustomed to, okay, sit there, don't bother, don't talk.
Hmm.
So this year, I'm like, no, I'm
That's
taking up
good.
space and
Yeah,
I'm
we
being
have to,
loud.
right?
Yeah.
And also for me, when I shared my idea of the podcast to somebody else,
Yeah.
because I started joining groups online or social media, like you guys met, I met wonderful people too, right? And I joined this group, which meets every Monday, and you have to be accountable to that group for goals during the week, right? So I started doing that. And when I shared I wanted to start a podcast, but I told them why I didn't do it, because I was shy, I was afraid. Like I said before, who's going to listen to me? And something one of the girls said was, well, this is not about you. Sometimes that can be pride because you're making it about yourself, but in reality, you're serving other people. You're serving other people that can be changed by your story, or that God wants to use you so that one person can open her eyes, his eyes, and be healed from it. So I said, yeah.
That's
And
powerful.
that's what
Yeah,
That's
I
so
love
true.
that.
pushed me to even,
Make it
okay,
about
yeah.
ourselves.
So if God is putting this in my heart, I don't know how long it's going to last or what's going to happen after this, but he's telling me to do this right now, so I'm going to do it. So you already shared that story of basically from the ground up, we're building each other, our identity, we're rebuilding. And I think about it from solid ground now, because now we are choosing. Younger, we can blame people. We can say, oh, it's your fault. You didn't give me this. Our parents didn't give us this. But now it is my choice. Whatever I do right now as adult, it's my decision. It's going to be building my legacy, or where my kids are going to see or know about me, right? So and you have kids, both of you have kids, right?
Yeah.
100.
How have they inspired you? Well, you already shared some of it,
Yep.
Jeanette. It was,
To me, I feel like I want to give them what
mm,
I didn't have. And in the aspect of communication, the aspect of growth, of you can be rich, you can have whatever you want, you can go after your dreams. Because even like touching on all the other taboo topics, like money was never a conversation we grew up, right? It was like either we're rich or we're poor. And with my kids, it doesn't work like that in my household, right? It's like you can be rich, right? And how can you be rich? Like this is the money you can make, it's like teaching them, right? Educate them from little, and then letting them choose what they want to do, and also understanding rich not just in money, but rich as like with the things that God have given us, right? That allows us to move forward. But I feel like it's
mhm,
just really breaking those taboos of that we didn't have, because I think it's as important, because not only are we shaping them, but we're shaping the
mhm.
people around them, and then the next generation, which is their kids and their kids' kids, important.
Yeah. Yeah. And similar to me, I want to lead by example and I want them to, to see me and say, wow, like, we can wear all different hats, right? We don't have to be stuck. In like, let's say corporate America. Like, yeah, I see mom, she's, in corporate America, but then she's using her creative outlet and that's okay, right? She's, doing the podcast. She was a doula, like they saw me years ago during COVID, serving families and being, a doula. And now they're seeing me, do this, a YouTube channel. So for me, it's like I want them to look up to me and I want them to know that they can do it all. They can wear all sorts of hats. And I have boys and girls. So I want both of them to know, like, yeah, I can do that as well because look, my mom is doing it.
Is there a piece of advice that you would give?
For me, I would say go for it. Just start. You'll figure it out along the way. It's not going to start perfect, but the beauty is going to be that you're going to be able to look back and you're going to be able to reflect and you're going to be like, oh my God, like look at that first like recording I did. Like the lighting was so off, but look at where I am now. And that growth, that's going to be the beauty in the story and in the growth. So go for it, start, like, turn off all that noise because I know we all have that imposter syndrome and all those, negative voices. Just go for it. And I think, like you said, if it was placed in your
Yes.
heart, it was meant for a reason.
That was beautiful. And I would tell them, aside from yes, go for it, that's like our go-to. Just go for it no matter how you start, just show up. It's know that you're worthy and know that you matter, but also understanding that you have to also find a community that supports you. Because at times we have the right vision, we have the right heart, we want to move forward, but then you got to be worried about the people you surround yourself with that don't dream as big, that don't truly care, that are not here to help others but themselves, right? And I think finding a community that you can feel aligned with, that you can feel guided, that you can have like a sisterhood or some partnership with is important too, especially in moments because we're all going to fall in that hole of feeling with doubts, courage, confused, so they can pick you up so you can get back up. Right. And my other advice will be, and this is something that I learned older, is lean to God. That didn't really hit to me until I would say like late last year, honestly, because I grew up as a Christian, knowing that, God exists, but really never follow God's, like going to church or really believed. I would only say, thank you, God, when good things would happen. And then when bad things would happen, I'm like, why do you hate me? So I never really understood religion or like God. And I really got to know him lately. And I feel that not only has helped me level up in many aspects of my life, but it made me really know that I'm not alone. So if tomorrow I don't have the
Mm,
community, if tomorrow
amen.
I don't have a roof over my table, if tomorrow I don't have anything, I know God is with me. And I felt like I wanted to share that today because I've had that
Yes.
pivotal
And
moment with
that's
God
I
too
was going
that
it
I
was going to
feel
be
we're
my next
lacking in this
question,
world
how
more than ever.
faith has shaped you or helped you throughout this journey, because I grew up Christian since I was 12, but it's a journey. But like you said, God is the one that gives us our identity. And if we, like you said, if everything disappears, where's your identity planted? In what you have, in your family, in your kids, in your friends? Where is it? If it's planted on God, we're going to be fine because we know that he loves us and that he's taking care of us. So that was going to be my next question.
So Cynthia, I'll let you take the mic now. Pretty much answer it.
Yeah, I didn't grow up. I grew up Catholic, but I grew up on holidays. We would go to church, for example, on Easter. So I didn't know who God was. I didn't have a relationship with God. So I would just say like, yeah, I'm Catholic, right? Because that was what I saw my parents do. I grew up seeing my family and my parents do a lot of witchcraft and santeria. So I didn't have that relationship with God. Funny enough, I thought that was also part of God and a religion, right? Because that's all I saw growing up until I met my husband. He was the one that really introduced me to who is God, building a relationship with him. And in that relationship, I gave my life to, to Jesus. So yeah, I look at it, I always say like the grace that he has given me is amazing, right? I look at my life, my kids, we're a blended family, and the things that I have, and I always look back like a year or 3 years ago, and I look at what I have now. Like he is always multiplying, his grace is enough. God plays a big role in my life. And I'm always like Jeanette said,
That is so
if I
beautiful.
lose it
Yeah,
all,
that's
I
so
know I
true.
have
His
him,
grace is
and that is
enough, right? And
enough.
that's something that the world sometimes makes us believe that we have to work for things in order to be loved, right? But the Bible says that he already loved us from the beginning of creation, even before. So, like you mentioned too, Jeanette, we're worthy because he died for us on the cross. So everything in this world is part of his grace. It's just so beautiful how he reveals that to us at his time, right? Sometimes it takes a while for us to actually understand that he's calling us because the Bible says that he calls us in with love every day. That's his purpose, just to bring us into him. So I love to hear those stories. It's all what you just said about how you grew up, Cynthia, believing that witchcraft and all of that was part of God, right? How sometimes so many people believe that and they are not able to understand the actual freedom and fullness that God offers because they're only in that world and they don't realize what God offers. So I'm so happy that you got to, experience God's grace now and you're on the other side. Yeah, that's so nice. Going back to Taboo Talks and how you work as creators for people that are starting like me and, we're both starting on this. What is a challenge as creators that you have? Because I know both of you live in different states. So what is one of the challenges that you guys have working together and how have you overcome?
I believe that we had, because currently, right now, I mean, we're not perfect and we're still trying to figure out a lot of things, but it was not having a system in place.
Yes.
And as much as we're good, we're like, okay, yeah, let's add stuff here, let's add stuff there. What really has helped us is now that we kind of getting the feel stuff, because I know I'm not asking someone to launch the podcast and have the system in place. But for us, it was like the launch and then now seeing the growth of like, okay, how can we make our life easier? But also not affecting our relationship, our friendship, so we don't get overwhelmed because we also have so much more behind the scenes happening. But it was talking and realizing that we need to step up. We need to create the
Mm-hmm.
systems, like we were saying before we jump on this call, with like the whole calendar, communications on like a Slack app, where we're not like texting also business stuff, because we don't want to lose sight of our friendship either. And I think that's as important, because with business, I feel we can be business, 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 that we forget to be like, hey, how are you today? Or a simple, how was your weekend? How's your family? Hey, you have kids? We
Mm.
forget because we're so consuming business and then the growth that we don't have time to breathe. So I think it's important to have those systems in place. And we've seen a huge growth, but also more communication within us and more like peace of mind, I would say.
Yeah, similar for me. Yeah, I think now that we have like a system in place, that has helped us a lot. I mean, Jeanette and I send each other about 100 voice memos a day. Because we are truly wearing all the hats, but now we have like a better system in place where, we have a calendar where, people, guests, can book their podcast recording. So that has worked tremendously. And then I think one thing I told Jeanette from the beginning, which we've always been very good about it from the beginning, is if there's something that we don't like, that we're posting, that we don't agree, let's speak about it rather than not saying anything and just going with the flow, right? I always tell her, yes, it was my idea. Yes, I'm the founder, but we're in this together. I've never looked at this like, oh, she's the co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
I've never liked those kind of words. It's like I tell my kids, right? We're a blended family. They've met when they were 3 and 2. The word like stepsister, stepbrother, like that, I'm like, no, we're all brothers brothers and sisters, we're all a family. So I treat it the same way. Like, yes, it was my idea, but
Yes.
then we merge it together with your creative self, right? So it's our idea. So I always told her from the beginning, if there's anything that we're posting or that we're creating that you don't agree with or you don't think it's aligned, then we have to speak up before, bury it and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to say anything. And then it just escalates to something worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it because it's challenging, especially como mujeres, right? Like we always want to take ownership. We always, we have like our mind is running around and we have a million thoughts. But I think also what helps us is that she has what she's good at and I have what I'm good at. And also we kind of like the same thing. So I mean, as of now, we haven't had like any issues, I would say. I'm sure they'll
Mm-hmm.
come because we want to expand, we want to grow, and we're gonna have like moments that we're gonna have to take a step back and come back at it. But I think the most important things, like Cynthia said, is a communication and making sure that both people or three, four, whoever's on board are aligned. Because I think that's something that's going to help you get so much farther without any misunderstandings. Because I even remember when I was going to add on my social media co-founder, I asked her, and it's because of that respect that I have, right? Of the day. But she was like, are you kidding me? Like I was asking her that question. Now it's different, but it's just that respect that, we give each other of like, we don't want to overstep, but then it's those boundaries too that we're not, this is
Mm-hmm.
ours. And wherever we go, we're talking about it as this is our baby, right? So yeah. And then if you're running solo, I would say to just really, I would tell you to first know your
Mm-hmm.
message and where you're heading, obviously, but those systems in place are going to help you because the minute you start overwhelmed. It happened with me, and rooted in her. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to make sure I had even systems in place. I had to answer emails. I had to like schedule people.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have a system in place, no matter how passionate you are, it can fall
Mm-hmm.
apart. And that will, so my advice is systems. That's going to help you and personal development. You read more books, when
Mm-hmm.
you pray, when you do things that actually are gonna help you think better and process better, I think it's gonna help you in the long
Yes.
term as well to be successful, not just in business, but in your personal life.
100%. And then I think for me, once you reach a certain level, delegate. Don't be afraid
Mm-hmm.
to delegate because your time is very valuable, right? You are the host. So you're the one that has to be up front and center. And then maybe, a year from now or 6 months from now, you're like, okay, let me hire someone to edit my videos. That time that
Yeah.
you're sitting doing the editing, I mean, we know how editing goes, right? It can
Mm-hmm.
take an hour, 2 hours, right? And that's not our expertise, right? So it can take up so
Mm-hmm.
much time, and that time you can be doing something else, right? You can be like fishing your next guest, right? So delegate is something big and not to be afraid of delegating, right? Because sometimes we don't want to lose that power or we're
Mm-hmm.
perfectionists, right? Like me. But you're like, no, I want it to go this way, or you're being very picky. So for me, for sure, delegate when you reach a certain, when you reach a certain level, right? Because at the beginning, of course, you're trying to figure it out and wearing all hats. But I
Yeah.
believe,
I'm
once you
taking
reach
notes.
a certain threshold, delegate for
I'm taking
sure.
notes, yes, because I'm doing this alone, and sometimes now I'm better at it. But I used to not like to ask for help to other people because I'm so used to doing everything on my own. So even for this, I had to ask friends that know how to, create a logo to create a logo for me or to give me tips on which app to use for the podcast. Even those little things, sometimes going back to believing that you're not worthy or who's going to help me, maybe they don't want to help, but there's so many people out there that have the heart and the desire to help you, right? So yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And you have us here now. You have Cynthia too, which I know you
Yeah.
it's like that's how we learn and that's what we're here for. Like I heard
Mm,
from one of our guests the other, well, Johnny, she says, my win is not
mhm.
your win is not my win. And that with me for a while because
Mhm.
as women, we want to collaborate, but we're always competing of like, or what can I do next? Oh, she's one step further than me. And we don't do it half
Yes.
of the time with like bad intentions. It's just us. Like we're so competitive, right?
Yeah.
When we start helping others, we go so much
Mhm.
farther. Like we've seen our growth, and it's all been thankfully for our collaboration with the community. That's our number one. And I think that's
Mhm.
important when you collaborate, when you help each other and you support each other. Not just about, well, what am I
Mm-hmm.
going to get, Esther, out of helping you? No, no, no,
Yes.
no. How can I help you? And that will fill my cup
Mm-hmm.
eventually. But that's what makes me happy. And that's
Yes,
what
there is
helps
room for
us
all of
and makes
us.
us happy is helping others because there's room for all of us.
Yeah. And not gatekeeping. I know one of our guests,
Yes.
Jenny, said that. Like we're not gatekeeping any information.
No.
We're sharing, we're uplifting each other
Yes.
because, we're here to help each other, right? Because other communities do it too. So let's do it for each other, right? And that's the big thing about the Latino community, right? We see other communities helping each other and giving tips and stuff.
Yes.
Why can't we do the same? Let's do the same and let's uplift each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I launched Rooted in Her. It was just women empowerment, right? And when I started surrounding myself, especially in Miami, I was like, everybody preaches women empowerment. But then when you were to 10 events or stuff, it wasn't my vision of women empowerment. So that's what made me feel like, okay, well, every person is different.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, women empowerment is one thing. For us is another
Mm-hmm.
thing. For her, is something else. And what we get caught up to is in comparing ourselves. Same thing with the podcast. Everybody has a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us. So why somebody else going to launch a different one? You're different voice, different message, different story. And I think that's where
Mm-hmm.
we also get caught up. It's like, it's so
Yes.
bright, right?
That's
Like
so true.
everybody
That's
has
beautiful.
one. Well, no,
See, I'm
you,
excited
what makes it
for
different.
what the future holds, right? It's so exciting. Yeah, I'm so happy I got the chance to have you girls on here. Thank you so much for joining. And I can't wait to see what you guys keep building. And maybe I'll meet Jeanette one day when I go to Florida or if you come here.
Yes.
No, it is my pleasure. And I learned so much. And
I
like you
think
said, there's people
that's in
that are
inviting
going
us.
to listen to this and they're going to learn something new too and feel empowered and inspired. And that is the point of this podcast. And I know you girls too. And especially for our Latino girls or our Latino communities, or even people that are not Latinos or that find themselves just wondering what they should do next, right? So get rid of that fear because imposter syndrome, I heard somebody else say, is actually just fear, right? We're just fearful and we were made to be fearful. So, yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah.
Rooting for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Amen.
having us. I
Amen.
can't wait to
Yeah, I'm
see
so
your
excited. Well,
podcast
thank you so
grow.
much, girls. I hope you have a great
Thank
rest of your day. And
Yeah,
everybody, thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
thank you.
you.